Good day, I'm Izzy Gonzalez, and today I'll be presenting to you my intervention plan, which is the schedule website of Skyfreight. So to start, I will be introducing the problem, area of interest, and leverage point, and the core idea. So first, for the problem, it is possible environmental degradation, energy consumption, and fuel emissions due to the delays in the Bureau of Customs for the cargo of the consignees. Next, we have the area of interest, which is the Bureau of Customs, of course, under the airport warehouse. As you can see this in the image below, that is the feedback loop of the area of interest. And the leverage point I'll be focusing on is informing consignees to avoid weekend deliveries. So we do this by adding all the information that they need in the website. So next we have the core idea. So it is to create an online website, page, or platform that displays the BOC's storage status, available delivery dates, and policies. Okay, so now we move on to the cost benefit analysis. So, firstly, for the costs, this includes financial and operational costs. For financial, we have the costs it takes to develop the website, whether that's subscriptions or hiring a team, external team to develop the website. Others include salaries for the scheduling team, um, and training costs for the scheduling team. Moving on to the operational, the cost there would be like the time to coordinate with BOC and the consignees to adjust. So that would take some time for not only Skyfreight to adjust internally, but also for these two other organizations to also adjust. And as well as system maintenance. So if there are any errors, it would also cause some time delays, things like that. While there are costs, there are also benefits. There are social environmental benefits. Firstly, there's reduced energy use. Second is reduced environmental degradation. Third, stronger stakeholder relationship. Fourth is reduced traffic congestion and urban pollution. And fifth is employment opportunities. Okay, so now we move on to the execution strategy. So this is in phases. This comes in 6 phases. We're starting off with the first three and giving us a total of 17 steps. This execution strategy is meant to be done within 14 weeks or about 4 months, approximately 4 months. So for weeks 1 and 2 would be the first phase, which is planning and alignment. Under that, we have step 1, internal alignment. So that would be defining the objectives and identifying KPIs within the company, within Skyfreight. Step 2 is stakeholder coordination. So for this, it's having the BOC representatives meet with the Skyfreight representatives to align on policies, scheduling data, um, capacity limits per day, communication responsibilities, and the documents needed from the consignees. The third step is process mapping. So it is to map out the current delivery and congestion flow to identify possible bottlenecks and peak days. Next, we move on to phase 2, which will occur from weeks 3 to 6. So move on to step 4, which is designing a scheduling system. Um, this step will determine the daily capacity limits, cutoff times, and priority rules such as incentives or for early booking from consignees. Next is step 5, which is website development, which is actually um, designing the website, which should consist of a booking calendar, congestion forecast, document checklist with validation, and information of BOC's policies. Next, we move on to step 6, which is designing an incentive scheme. So, for example, discounts for early scheduling and priority slots for compliant consignees. Next, we move on to the third phase, which is the scheduling team formation. So, step 1 is to actually form the scheduling team. They can do this by hiring outside people or outside sources or reassigning current employees to be part of the scheduling team. And step 8 is to train these employees so that they have the skill set to be organized, to organize the system, and to contact with BOC and the different consignments. Now we move on to the second half of the execution strategy. So phase four is the pilot testing. Um, this will be during weeks 8 to 10. So first we have step 9, which is soft launch with select consignees. So the system will be launched, but not to every consignee, just a few to see how it works and how these chosen few perceive it or have any complications with it. Step 10 would be to run the system, which is basically just and through this they monitor any errors or complications. Yeah, and then for step 11, this is to collect feedback from the chosen consignees. So if they have any concerns um, about delays or glitches, etc. So it's not only from the consignees, actually, it's also including the BOC and the scheduling team if they're noticing any difficulties as well. So next would be phase 5, which is full implementation. So this is the actual official release of the website to all consignees. So this is from weeks 11 to 14. Um, it starts with step 12, which is the official system launch, which requires all consignees to schedule their deliveries dates via the website. So not just select few anymore, it's now all of the clients. Next is step 13, which is to enforce the limits of the schedule by closing fully booked dates and then redirecting the consignees to more available slots. And then step 14, which is to activate the incentives. So this is to offer and execute the discounts and benefits to the stakeholders. And lastly, we have phase 6, which is monitoring and optimizing. So this is ongoing. So this is after the implementation, and it's just to make sure that the system is working. So step 15 to 17 are kind of done at the same time. So step 15 is performance tracking, where the team will measure the amount of deliveries that have been reduced on the weekend, and also if there are less trucks that are idling and if energy is being less consumed by these warehouses. Next, we have step 16, which is a system adjustment. Um, yeah, which is basically as the time goes on, if there's any glitches or updates that need to be made, they will be made. And then finally, we have step 17, which is continuous coordination with BOC. It's very important that BOC is continuously updating the website because like most of the control is on BOC's end. So there needs to be continuous communication with them and to strengthen the partnership and have a healthy relationship with them so that the consignees also trust and rely on this new intervention. Now we move on to the framework analysis. So for this intervention, I chose creating shared value, more specifically redefining productivity. So this intervention primarily targets energy use, so it reduces energy consumption and fuel emissions by eliminating idling trucks and warehouse operations over the weekend. Secondly, it tackles resource use by preventing the need to build more warehouses as space is optimized through scheduling. And thirdly, employee productivity. So if ever Skyfreight chooses to hire out externally, it creates employment opportunities and skill development by opening a scheduling team. So now we move on to our stakeholders. So firstly, the internal stakeholders of this intervention is the scheduling team, employees, investors, and Skyfreight management. For the external stakeholders, we have the consignees, BOC, and local communities. So for the matrix here, as you can see, for the keep satisfied, we have the investors. So that is because they have a lot of power in the funding of the business, but they're not really directly affected unless it's concerning profitability. Next, we have the key players, which is Sky Freight Management, BOC, and consignees. So these are the groups with the highest impact and highest influence. So the reason why management is here is because they are in charge of leading the change initiative, and that its success is really more dependent on them, because they have the power and the influence to guide and direct the employees of the company. Next, we also have BOC. Because the scheduling is mainly in their control and the port warehouse is also in their control, they have a really big impact on this project. And thirdly, we have the consignees. So of course, the profitability is dependent on the consignees if they choose to comply with this new project, um, and the success is also really dependent on them if they have any concerns. Okay, next we have monitor, which are the employees, so the general staff, so not including the scheduling team. So the reasons why they are impacted is because this solution reduces stress within the company. They will receive less complaints from the consignees, so it takes off the tension off of the other employees. And lastly, we have keep informed. So this would be the scheduling team and local communities. So they have high impact because the scheduling team, their livelihood is dependent on the success of this project, and also their source of income. Same with local communities, their livelihood is also impacted by this project. It means that there is less environmental degradation, and so less soil degradation, less loss of buffer land, and overall, like, the pollution effect will be improved, and so it really affects the local communities. Also, if the Sky Freight opens employment opportunities to people in the local communities, it also heavily impacts them, as it also gives them a new source of income. Okay, so next we move on to the engagement. So for this, we have the internal stakeholders. It's generally the same engagement for the internal stakeholders, which is to have regular performance reports and meetings. So this is to keep alignment and to update the company on objectives and KPIs. Also, to provide clear ROI justification. So, the goal of this engagement is to maintain alignment and secure support from both the investors and employees. So, because morale is dependent on the employees, you have to keep them engaged and make sure that they are being rewarded and properly compensated for this. Next, we have BOC. The engagement plan for this is to have regular alignment meetings, and easy communication. So for the alignment meetings, it's very important that BOC stays consistent with updating. As for easy communications, if there's any problem with the system, it should be easy for them to communicate the scheduling team. Same with the consignees. Yeah, and then for local communities, they will be provided sustainability reports and employment applications. For consignees, again, easy communication, and they will also receive transparency over what is needed or required, as well as incentives. So to conclude, by implementing a sustainable scheduling system, Sky Freight creates shared value by improving efficiency while reducing environmental and social impacts, with long-term benefits outweighing short-term costs.